Yeah, we back. Now, today's going to be a follow-up video to the ones I've been dropping in recent days in regards to how the president of Niger came out on state television in front of the entire world and pointed his finger directly at the French government in terms of who is one of the main actors sponsoring the terrorism that we see in West Africa, specifically in the Sahel region. Now, of course, we've had our speculations, we've made our assumptions, but to have a sitting president, to have a head of state come out and confirm everything that we've always thought, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. And what's even crazier is still the Western media has not covered the story. I haven't seen any major publication, the New York Times, Reuters, the British Broadcasting Company, the French media, none of the big major Western publications have picked up on the story. I mean, come on, man. This is a crazy story. These are the same people that talk about fighting terrorism. Now you have a bombshell interview that goes in detail about the inner workings of the terrorist networks, and none of the Western publications have decided to pick it up. My God. But I guarantee, let a terrorist set an ice cream truck on fire, and all the big major Western publications will run with the story on the same day to talk about, man, the military leaders are struggling to contain the security situation in their country, right? But here you have a bombshell interview, right? Everything laid out on the table, and none of the big major Western publications want to talk about it. It's truly amazing. Now, not only has the president of Niger come out and confirmed our suspicions, but you also had some high-ranking men in Nigeria who also came out and confirmed our suspicions, right? You had, I believe, a gentleman by the name of Femi Kayode, who was the former minister of tourism, the former minister of culture. I believe on social media, he also said something similar that said that the terrorism you see in the region is supported and backed by Western powers, by Western forces behind the scenes, right? You had Professor Dr. Usman Youssef, who came out and said it directly in front of the cameras. France started all this shit you see going on, bro. He's directly said France started all of these things. So now you have all these high-ranking men in African society coming out and saying, yeah, it's them boys over there, right? It's them boys over there. Now, we always speculated and we always made assumptions, but to have confirmation, man, it's really crazy. And of course, the Western media completely silent. They completely silent. Now, of course, I understand why they are silent, because if you read the Western media, when they talk about the so-called fight against terrorism, they never talk about where the weapons are coming from, right? They talk about everything else, but they never talk about where the weapons are coming from. Where's the training coming from? Where's the money coming from? Where's the equipment coming from? They never touch that part of the story. They never touch that side of the game. They talk about everything else, right? They're going to talk about, oh man, the citizens are hungry. Oh man, the instability. Oh man, the insecurity. Oh man, bring in the Western troops. But they never talk about how the hell did an illiterate booty scratcher get his hand on an anti-tank weapon, on an anti-drone weapon, on an anti-aircraft defense system? How did he get it? How did he end up with endless ammunition? How did he end up with billions of dollars in CFA francs? Nobody ever touched that side of the game. So now when you had the president of Niger come out and directly lay everything out on the table, they don't want to touch the story. Isn't that funny? Now they don't want to talk about it anymore. But we got to be honest. That never made sense to anybody who was a critical thinker. Anybody who had a three-dimensional mind, you knew that never made sense, right? How are they able to sustain their momentum for years, right? Conducting highly coordinated military campaigns with advanced weaponry, and nobody takes a step back and asks themselves, how did you get your hands on this material? You're living in a landlocked country. You don't have a thriving economy. You have very minimal infrastructure. You don't have access to the global markets. You can't engage in import and export economic activity because you don't have access to the sea, right? Because you're landlocked. You don't have a job, right? You don't have a business. So how are you able to generate money to keep your guns loaded? First of all, how did you even get the money to get the gun in the first place, right? Let alone the ammunition. These are the questions I ask myself whenever a country is going through instability mixed with poverty. Right. So when you got violence and weapons in the same area, it never made sense to me. Right. How the hell you got flip flops on your feet, but you got the latest machine gun? It don't make no goddamn sense. Right. Like, it don't make no sense. But anyways, in today's video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a series of articles, right, from the Western media, right, from Western sources, and we're going to analyze those articles with our newfound knowledge, right? Because when these articles were published, this was before we had the confirmation of the hidden hands behind the scenes, right? But now we're going to read these articles with this new lens, right? Now we understand, now we have confirmation that there are some nefarious actors behind the scenes working to cause chaos and instability within the black man's land. So now we're going to examine these articles now to really understand the gravity of the situation. Now, take a look up on the screen. The Sahel. The estimated 11,643 fatalities linked to militant Islamist violence in the Sahel mark a record high for any of the 5 African theaters since the peak of the Boko Haram violence in 2015. Now, that's why on my channel, I refer to these men as our enemies. These men are my enemies. These men will never stop being my enemies, bro. Even when I'm dead, they'll still be my enemies from the grave. Now, when you see that number, over 11,000 deaths, right? 11,000 of our people dead, right? Now, you got to think, each one of these individuals is a brother, a sister, a son, a daughter, a cousin, a family member, a loved one. I don't think we understand the gravity of the situation when you have foreign governments who are sponsoring the murder of our people. Because that's what we got to call it, right? We have foreign governments sponsoring the murder of our people for their own personal and selfish interests. Now, let's continue. Fatalities in the Sahel represent a near 3-fold increase from the levels seen in 2020 when the first military coup in the region occurred. Now, before we had the confirmation of the information, right, when they would present that information to you, you would think, wow, so that must mean that we need to call the Western militaries back in to save the day, right? Because that's the sentiment they want to plant into your mind. But in reality, when you see a statement like that, you're supposed to see that, wow, so whoever is supplying these ignorant bastards in the desert, these ignorant terrorists, whoever is supplying them has increased the supply. Whoever is equipping them has increased the equipment. Whoever is funding them has increased the finance. And it's so ironic. The same person who's presenting himself as the savior, right? I'm here to save the day, right? Is the same person providing funding, support, and weapons behind the scenes to the same one causing all the chaos. Now let's continue. Fatalities in the Sahel amounted to 50% of all militant Islamist League fatalities reported on the continent in 2023. By comparison, the Sahel accounted for 30% of the continent's militant Islamist League fatalities in 2020, right? So they're saying from 2020 to 2023, the terrorists have gotten more powerful. They've gotten their hands on more powerful equipment. They've gotten their hands on more finance, right? So whoever their sponsors are behind the scenes, they've increased the support to where now they've doubled the murder rate. Now let's continue. The declines in violent activity in North Africa and Mozambique contributed to a 5% drop in the number of violent extremist events across the continent over the past year. This drop was accompanied by a 13% decline in fatalities linked to violence against civilians, reflecting decreases in all regions except the Sahel, right? So now the Sahel is the only region in Africa where the terrorists, for whatever reason, they never run out of ammunition, they never run out of supplies, they never run out of equipment. They're just, bro, it just never stops, right? It just never stops. They never run out of ammunition, they never run out of weapons, they never run out of money, right? Like I said, these guys are in the middle of the goddamn desert, no job, no education, but for whatever reason, the ammunition is endless, right? For whatever reason, the equipment is endless. For whatever reason, the finance is endless. Now let's continue. Violence against civilians accounts for 35% of all militant Islamist related events in the Sahel, the highest of any region in Africa. Now, as we can see, there are obviously some nefarious actors, some hidden hands behind the scenes that for whatever reason, they're trying to destroy the Sahel, right? For whatever reason, there's some men behind the scenes. Their objective is to destroy the Sahel. Right? They want to destroy the Sahel. They want to massacre the inhabitants of the Sahel for their own personal gain, for their own personal enrichment. That's just what it is. That's just what it is. Because if these men did not have foreign sponsors, did not have some external sources backing them behind the scenes, they would have ran out of ammunition a long time ago. Now let's continue. Burkina Faso experienced 67% of the militant Islamist-related fatalities in the Sahel. This is more than double the number of deaths recorded in 2022, right? So Ibrahim Traoré came to power in mid-2022, right? So they're saying that, because like I said, we're analyzing it now with the new information. They're saying that ever since he has risen to power, that whoever is sponsoring the terrorists behind the scenes has supplied them with endless ammunition, endless weapons, endless support, so they can wreak havoc upon the country. Because there's no way you're going to logically explain to me how some random booty scratchers in the desert managed to get their hands on military equipment that can go toe-to-toe with the central government. And not only that, but they have the knowledge on how to use these weapons. Like I said, they have the knowledge on how to use an anti-tank weapon, an anti-drone weapon, right? You're not going to tell me that it's just by happenstance and coincidence that they have access to all this ammunition, and not only this ammunition and this weaponry, but also the knowledge on how to maneuver and handle it and deploy it during combat, right? You're just not going to tell me that it's just by happenstance and coincidence. No, there are actors behind the scenes supplying these men, training these men, financing these men. The same ones always preaching the gospel about the fight against terrorism. The same ones behind the scenes are making sure that terrorists are always well supplied and well trained. Now let's continue. Data indicates that 2023 was the deadliest year in Mali's history. Now, you may be asking yourself, what incentive, what personal interest might France have to be destabilizing the region in this fashion, right? Why are they trying to destroy the Sahel? Why are innocent black people being put to death due to these French-backed terrorists, right? Like I said, man, it all comes down to personal interest. It all comes down to economic interest. That's number one, right? That's number one. France has a vested interest in the region. The Sahel is rich with gold, oil, uranium, lithium, various other, high-level critical minerals. And France, for the longest time, they've always had first access to these critical minerals. They've always had somewhat of a monopoly on these critical minerals. But as we already know, they've been kicked out of this country, that country, getting kicked out of the uranium mines. They've been kicked out of the gold mines. So now their economic interests have come under attack. And if you've been watching my channel, then you already know the biggest loss they've taken in the past year or so was the fact that their multi-billion-dollar multinational uranium company, or Reno, essentially collapsed to the point where the government had to bail out the company. So now these terrorists, these mercenaries, are here to destabilize the region in the same way that we destabilize the French economy. For example, let's say you had a guy in the neighborhood who owned a corner store, right, that everybody depended on. For example, this would be France. Let's say, France owned a corner store, right, making big money for decades, for a very long time. Now, one day, a group of young guys, a group of young black men decide that we don't want you running the store anymore, right? So we're going to take it over, right? We're going to run you out the goddamn store. We're going to take over the store, and we're going to start selling our own products. So now the old store owner, which is France, right? He goes and he pays a local gang, right? Some local gang members to start causing trouble on the block, right? Start breaking windows, harassing your customers, etc., right? Basically trying to make it impossible for you to do business and engage in economic activity in peace, right? Basically trying to destabilize your entire operation. That's basically what France is doing here, right? By placing their full support behind the terrorists, it pretty much kills multiple birds with one stone, right? Number one, you destabilize the region. Number two, you discredit the administration, right? You go on the Western media and talk about how they can't control the terrorists. Meanwhile, you're the one supporting the terrorists. You're the one supplying the terrorists. But at the same time, you talk about how the black man can't control the terrorists. It's crazy, bro. It's truly insane. And number three, and this kind of plays into the discrediting of the administration, they want the citizens to lose confidence in their leaders. They want their citizens to lose confidence in the authorities. That way, once the citizens lose confidence in you, then they can either come in brute force with an invasion under the pretext of restoring order, right? And also, nobody's going to want to avenge your death in case they want to come in and murder you, right? So if they want to come in and kill you, nobody's going to want to avenge your death because they want to decrease the morale in the country. They want to decrease the confidence that people have in their leaders. So when they come in and assassinate their leaders, nobody wants to, defend your honor. And that also plays into psychological warfare also. And also by destabilizing the region, this gives them an excuse. This gives them validation. This gives them a pretext to justify their military presence, right? Like I said, coming in and trying to restore order, right? We're going to come in and save the day. It's like a firefighter who goes around setting houses on fire just so he can show up and put out the fire. Everybody looks at him like a hero when in reality, he's an arsonist. When in reality, he creates problems just to make himself look good. That's basically what France does. That's what France has been doing for a very long time. It's the Western way, right? It's the Western way. Now, let's continue. Now, this happened a few months back earlier in the year. At least 100 civilians killed in one of the deadliest attacks in Burkina Faso history. Jihadists affiliated with Al-Qaeda attacked local residents who were digging a trench to protect their village. Now, as you can see, the enemy has been trying to destroy the Sahel, right? They've been trying to destroy the Sahel. And like I said, this is all for their own personal economic gain, right? So the citizens of these nations, right, our brothers and sisters, our family, innocent black men and women and children, they're simply pawns in a greater chess game, right? They're simply pawns. The French have no care in the world for these people. The French don't care how many blacks have to die in order for them to remain prosperous. That's their mentality. That's how they've been moving for the past how many centuries. So we can't expect them to change in the modern day. Now, let's continue. Though successful at first, by 2014, France's military operations in the region were met with growing anti-French sentiment. France broadened its counterterrorism presence, but was unable to contain the ever-expanding armed groups who threatened civilians. As a result, the local populations became wary of the former colonial power. Now, obviously the Western media is going to gas up the French, right? At the beginning of the article, they said, oh, France was successful at first, but then the anti-French sentiment. No. You were never successful. You spent 10 years in the region, 0 results, right? 10 years in the region, 0 results. The reason for the anti-French sentiment was because you came into the country with your infantry, with your air force, with your intelligence, your drones and everything in between, and you could not defeat the booty scratchers in the desert. You mean to tell me the mighty French military, the descendants of Napoleon Bonaparte, you couldn't defeat Ahmed and Muhammad in the desert? You mean to tell me Ahmed and Muhammad, who can't even read and write, you couldn't put up any victories against them over 10 years? That's the reason behind the anti-French sentiment, because you are incompetent. The only thing you're good at is destroying and tearing things down, as we can see by your support of the terrorists. But when it comes to counterterrorism operations, when it comes to restoring order and peace and stability, that is not your domain. You have proven to the world that is not your domain. Now let's continue. The French security assessment adds the violence in Burkina Faso has began to spill over into at least one of its peaceful southern neighbors, citing an attack inside Togo from the Burkina Faso border, seizing a Togolese army camp, killing at least 12 soldiers and looting weapons. And then it goes on to say that there could be a new terrorist group operating along the border regions of Togo. Now, it's so ironic, right? Togo has been a nation, Togo has been peaceful for the longest time. Togo was never known for terrorist violence, right? But for whatever reason, when the president of Togo, who for the longest time was known as a trusted Western ally, when he began making friendly overtures towards Assimi Goïta, right, the president of Mali, right, when he began making friendly overtures towards President Chiani, president of Niger, right, when he began making friendly overtures towards their brothers in the AES, the Alliance of Sahelian States, and not only that, but also forging economic ties with the brothers by giving them access to their seaport for import and export, right? Because we already know those 3 countries are landlocked, so they need access to the sea. So the brother down in Togo had given them access to the seaport. And for whatever reason, after that, all of a sudden terrorists started attacking this country. Oh my God, bro. Oh my God. Now you're going to tell me that's a coincidence. Togo Togo was never known for the terrorist violence, right? Togo was peaceful, minding their business, had a nice puppet in charge, minding their business. Now all of a sudden he wants to start, he start feeling the energy of sovereignty. We going linking up with the AES, we going linking up with the Simigoita. Now all of a sudden terrorists start attacking your country. Oh my God. Now let's continue. Take a look up on the screen. This headline says the Sahel now accounts for 43% of global terrorism deaths. Right. So obviously at this point, the French are simply trying to destroy Africa. Like, we got to just say it like it is, man. The French are trying to destroy Africa. God damn, bro. The French are trying to destroy Africa. If they said, listen, if I can't enjoy Africa, then nobody can enjoy Africa. That's the mentality of the Frenchman, bro. If I can't have you, nobody can. Let's continue. Western powers that previously invested in trying to beat back the jihadists have very little capacity left on the ground, especially since the military government in Niger last year ordered the United States to leave a sprawling desert drone base in Agadez. The United States troops and the CIA used drones to attract jihadists and shared the intelligence with allies such as the French. You mean to tell me the United States military, the CIA, and the French military working in combination could not defeat Ahmed and Mohammed in the desert? Oh my God. Bro, pack it up, bro. Pack it up, bro. I ain't trying to hear none of that Western intelligence bullshit. You niggas ain't shit. Y'all boys ain't shit. The CIA, the French military, the US military working in combination could not defeat Ahmed and Mohammed in the desert. I am done. I'm done. We could end the video right here, bro. But anyways, man, what we see happening in the Sahel, this is just the reality of international politics. When it comes to securing power, securing resources, maintaining influence, the game gets dirty, bro. The game gets dirty. Nations, especially nations like France, they'll create chaos, they'll fund violence, they'll destroy lives, all while pretending to be the good guys. That's the crazy part. They'll do all this crime, all while pretending to be the good guys, right? But I want to salute the leaders of the AES. I want to salute the leaders of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, number one, for having the honor and dignity to go to the UN Security Council and present your case. Now, we already know the UN Security Council didn't do anything when they went down there and told them how they have proof that the French are sponsoring terrorism in the region. The UN Security Council didn't do a goddamn thing. But I salute those brothers for still ringing the alarm, and for President Chiani for doing that interview, speaking to the world and letting us know what it is, right? A lot of presidents, they wouldn't do that. A lot of presidents wouldn't go on the state TV and just let everything out. But I gotta show love to President Chiani for that, because after he released that revelation, then you also, like I said, you also had high-ranking men in Nigerian society. For example, Femi Fani-Kayode, who, like I said, was the former Minister of Culture and Tourism, back in the 2000s. And also you had, big dog, President Usman Youssef, who also said similar things, right? In terms of the source of the funding and support and backing for the terrorists causing havoc in the region. So in the past few days, you had a lot of men with credibility come out and make similar statements and revelations in regards to who was supporting these mercenary terrorists in the region. And like I said, there's many different types of warfare, right? There's physical warfare, which is what we see happening here. There's economic warfare, like when we destroyed the French multi-billion-dollar multinational Orano, right? There's propaganda warfare, right? When the Western media, after every terrorist attack, they go around trying to paint the leaders of the AES as incompetent or dictators or unstable, right? Or incapable of handling the security situation, right? So there's propaganda warfare. There's warfare fought on various fronts, right? So as a leader, you got to be prepared for that, right? So you got to be ready to wage propaganda warfare, which means controlling your narrative, right? You got to be ready to wage economic warfare. And I don't got to give you guys any advice in that arena, because when it comes to waging economic warfare, you guys have been doing that in an excellent manner, in an excellent manner, out here destroying multinational corporations. I don't got to give you any advice when it comes to economic warfare, right? And then you got physical warfare. So, brothers, invest in your military technology, invest in your military defense, right? Because obviously the terrorists, they got endless supply, right? The terrorists got an endless supply. The terrorists got free weapons, free ammunition, free drones, free missiles, free everything, right? Free everything. They don't got to pay for it. The weapons come straight to their front door like Amazon Prime. That's what it is. So you guys also got to invest in your military equipment, which I'm sure you guys have already been doing, right? Like I said, that major military victory that the Mali military was able to accomplish back in early December, where they vanquished multiple terrorist leaders with a drone strike. So obviously you guys have been investing in your military technology. Keep investing in the military technology. Keep controlling the narrative, right? Control your own media. Give out your side of the story. Don't let the Westerners control the entire story. Give out your side of the story. Control your narrative, right? And I believe that's what President Chiani was doing when he released that interview, that bombshell interview. He was trying to control the narrative, right? Because if you leave it up to the Western powers, they're never going to tell that side of the story. Like I said, they're going to talk about everything except where the weapons are coming from, right? So President Chiani, he fucked up the game with that one. That's why the Western media has been completely silent, right? It's been damn near a week. It's been damn near a week since they dropped that interview. And let me see if they dropped an article on that yet. Have they talked about the interview yet? Still ain't talk about it. Still ain't talk about it. Still ain't talk about it, bruh. Shameless, bruh. Still ain't talk about it. They'll publish 1,000 articles looking to discredit the regime, but they won't publish a single article talking about where these weapons are coming from. They won't even ask the question. That's how you know it's some funny business. That's how you know it's some funny business. But anyways, man, the consequences of France supporting terrorism in Africa. It's your boy Neferkari, that's Salim, back in the building. Yes, indeed. Cash App in the description. Support the channel, man. Support the album. Peace.
No. Feel like I'm 75. Know that your team be full of them traitors. You know that can never be mine. I'm grabbing a thought when I drive. I'm back in my zone and we on. She said that she ready to come be my wifey and hoping I don't do her wrong. I gave her my word and it's bond. I'm whipping the best like a lamb. I'm eating no chicken and lamb. Accustomed to call me the man. I never be up on the gram. I'm keeping that way undercover. She want me to tell her I love her. I told her I'm breaking the rules. I told her we making the news. Back in my city they loving me. Standing alone I'm 100 deep. Enemy plotting and still in reach. They try to make sure that we underneath. Trying to make sure that we never make it. Coming for power, come get acquainted. Coming for everything that I wanted. Feeling like Drake, but I really wrote it. Feeling like Kendrick, I'm checking names. Gotta roll up while I go insane. Got so much stress, I've been gated away. Stuffing these racks in this Louis case. One thing for certain, I'm about to check. Keep it 100 and nothing less. Stick with the family since day one. Had to stay down till my day come. Had to stay down, but I'm never patient. Hop on the mic and I'm motivated. Hop on the mic and I drive a classic. Haters can't see me, they copping glasses. Back in the studio making magic. Got a new tape and it's in production. Back on my business, I got a budget. Staying low key when I'm out in public. Feel like I'm 75. Know that your team be full of them traitors. You know that can never be mine. I'm grabbing a thought when I drive. I'm back in my zone and we on. She said that she ready to come be my wifey and hoping I don't do her wrong. I gave her my word and it's bond. I'm whipping the best like a lamb. I'm eating no chicken and lamb. Accustomed to call me the man. I never be up on the gram. I'm keeping that way undercover. She want me to tell her I love her. I told her I'm breaking the rules. I told her we making the news. Making it news, making it news, breaking the rules, yeah, know that we making it news, yeah, backing up, breaking the